for what many people don't know, Buck pre Pulsechain launch was, letting everybody know that he thinks that Pulsechain will only 10x. And I think every single sacrificer of Pulsechain Pulsex would be 1,000% upset, pissed off, hate Richard Hart. The community would crumble, in my opinion, if that were to happen. I, on the other hand, believe that there are way more X's to come for many reasons and different game theories that your typical person is not thinking of. And if I have to bring that out, I have no problem bringing that out to let everybody know why I think Pulsechain will do more than a freaking 10x. So, Katie, who do you want to start with? How do you want to do this? We're not going to, and we're not, by the way, Peace, I just want to let you know, me and Buck don't have any anger towards each other. We are, I would say, online friends and very cool with each other. I've actually sacrificed for his one of his coins. I lost a bet to him and I had to sacrifice some more to it. But there are friendly bets and there's no hostile or anger. Even if it gets heated, I don't even think it'll get heated, to be honest with you, because I think we do agree on a lot of things. So I just want to put that out there. And then the next thing I also want to put out there is anything I say is just speculation, in my opinion. It is not financial advice. I'm not telling you to buy anything. I'm not telling you where the price will go. So I just want to put that out there for anybody out there listening and those ones secretly listening. I am not a financial advisor and I am not telling you what to do with your money. Please read my profile bio to understand who I am. So, and Buck, if you want to say anything, it's up to you.
Yeah, sure. I was gonna let Katie chime in if she wanted to, but I can definitely chime in there. Yeah, a 10x. I think a 10x is possible. I think a 10x is excellent, and I think everybody should update their worldview about a 10x actually being like a pretty impressive result. It's not necessarily the best that we can do. I think we could do a lot more than that. But yeah, I think the odds of us doing 100x are comparatively much smaller. So where do you, when you say it can do much more, what do you think are sort of the kind of really rosy scenarios, Moon King? Like what would be a really like amazing outcome for Pulsechain in terms of returns over, let's say, a 3-year cycle? That gets us to the end of the next bull run.
Yeah.
Yeah. What would be your guess?
My guess, once again, not financial advice, people, but my guess would be anywhere from a 100x minimum to half of Ethereum's market cap at the
Okay.
top of the.
And how much upside do you think is in Ethereum?
I think Ethereum goes to anywhere from a $1.2 billion market cap all the way up to a $1.6 billion market cap. It will top out, in my opinion, it will top out exactly the way Bitcoin topped out, as I called it back in 2019, 2 years prior to the top of the Bitcoin market. I said that Bitcoin would top out at a $1.2 million market cap, and I believe it did just that. So kudos to me for calling it 2 years prior. And I think that Ethereum will do the exact same thing, and that could range anywhere from $10,000 to $12,000, depending on burning.
Just
Okay.
one
All right.
minor
So
correction. I do think you mean trillion, Moon King, not billion.
Yes, trillion. Yeah, sorry. If I said billion, that's not what I meant. Trillion.
yeah, thanks for that, Kate. I was confused as well. Yeah. Okay. So you think Ethereum has a 5x in it, basically, is what you're saying in the next
Rounding up,
cycle.
yeah, I think it will get to 10,000, and I do think usually in markets, 20% higher than what everyone is thinking. That rounded number usually happens. That's a good way to trap people, as you may know in traditional markets. Good way to trap people to think it's going even higher, and then they use that liquidity to draw the market down. So that's why I
Mhm.
gave it 1.2 to 1.6 trillion.
Yeah. Okay. So like I think a 5x in Ethereum is doable. I think it's hard, but yeah, it's definitely doable over a 3-year time horizon.
So when you say
So
doable, though, when you say
yeah.
doable, like what do you think if you had to put your own money down and you were going to take some profit on Ethereum, what would that number be?
Yeah, so I like to think probabilistically. So when I look at these different outcomes that we're talking about, obviously the ranges of probability are pretty wide, right? So it's quite possible that you could be looking at a scenario where Ethereum is actually down over 3 years. So maybe that the odds of that are maybe 10%, 20%, right? And you should think about that stuff. And then there's probably 20% odds where it's maybe up 10 times or something like that. And then sort of a central scenario I would say is that it maybe it doubles over the next 3 years. And I think that's pretty realistic from my standpoint, and I don't think that's crazy. But I just want to understand where the difference in sizing comes. So, like, you think if we do a 5x on Ethereum, Pulsechain's going to do 100x?
Minimum, yes.
Yeah.
Minimum.
I mean,
like that's the minimum side of it, and how I go about it is I'm going through the history of crypto. Now, I do understand you come from the financial side of things and you think of that probability wise of the low end staying down for 3 years. Like, that to me is a chance. That's not happening. Well, I won't say zero. I'll never say never. 1%, 1% chance of happening.
No,
The
it's
double
higher.
scenario,
It's much higher. It's
yeah,
much
the
higher than
double
that.
scenario that you're talking about that we're agreeing on, way more chance that that's happening. The 10x scenario, that's maybe 5 to 10% chance. I don't think that's happening either. I don't think you'll see a 20,000 Ethereum this cycle.
Right.
And
But
if we do,
just devil's advocate there. In the past it's done more. So why can't it just keep doing what's done in the past?
see, this is where I'm gonna get you, brother.
Well,
because
go ahead.
I go off of history, and when you look at the history of Bitcoin, it's what Richard Hart says, and he's 100% correct. The gains are getting smaller. So what you saw with Ethereum, the gains are getting smaller. So all it did from 2018.
Why are the gains getting smaller?
Well, the x's from the point is getting smaller. It's its third cycle, so you're looking at the amount of money it takes for it to go up. It's harder to push that up, and that's happening on Ethereum as of the last bull market. It topped in 2018 at $1,400 roughly, 1446, whatever exchange you look at, and it literally only did a 3.5x. 2.5x from its all-time high of 2018. So right there, that is actually on par of what Bitcoin did from its 2017 to 2018 top. So you're seeing something that's in its third cycle starting to get smaller gains, but in its first cycle, it smashed it as far as gains. So and that all depends on how you look at it. You can also say, well, from the bottom, it went to $90 and then you got those gains as it went up. But I'm just looking at from the top. What did it do from the top of one bull market to the top of the next bull market? And the gains are getting smaller. So there's no way in 2021 it tops out at $4,600 that's going to come around and say, let me do a 10x now. I don't care what you say, what's happening. The market is not going to do that because it hasn't done that. The chances of that happening is extremely small because it hasn't done it with Bitcoin. And the richest man as Richard Hart says, the richest man has already bought Bitcoin, and that didn't even 10x Bitcoin. So it's not going to do it to Ethereum also because the burning is not happening that fast, that crazy. So I don't think it happens with Ethereum. But Pulsechain, on the other hand, you ready for this? Pulsechain, on the other hand, is not in its first cycle, or excuse me, in its third cycle. It's in its first cycle. So the hype is there. Here's another thing. Who owns 95% of Ethereum? Not an OA. Who owns 90% of Bitcoin? Not Satoshi. So there are different factors. There are different tokenomics that allows Pulsechain to do things that others weren't able to do. And I know what you're going to say. We're already sitting at $1 billion market cap, and there are other features that will allow that to happen also. So,
yeah, cool. So I think you're exactly right with what you just said there. That's exactly what I'm going to say. So the number of cycles that you've done doesn't matter so much when you think about the potential upside of a project. The number of cycles doesn't matter. If you're ICP and you launch at number 4 token at the top of the bull market, which a lot of you guys remember when it just sort of showed up out of nowhere at a enormous multi-$100 billion valuation. It doesn't matter that you're a brand new token for the first time. Your upside potential is limited, and that's because of something called the law of large numbers, which is really the thing that you're describing here. It has nothing to do with the number of cycles that you've been through. It has to do with how large you are compared to the total addressable market of the kind of broader economy. So Bitcoin was able to do these million X returns because it started at basically worthless. Hex was able to do the 10,000x return, not from its first price that it did on the day one of the adoption amplifier, but from the bottom that it did after falling 97% or something like that in the first 30 days, right? That's where it did the 10,000x. It still hasn't even done a 10,000x from the day one adoption amplifier. It's actually underperformed Ethereum over that period, depending on how you look at it. So that's what actually matters the most in this, in terms of what are the limits of these returns. So I think your instinct is right in the sense that you recognize that as time goes by, it gets harder and harder for these successful things to keep going up, right? I think you agree with that, but it's not about the number of cycles. That's actually irrelevant. If you start off at $1 billion valuation, the odds of you getting to $1 trillion valuation, are relatively small, and it's just a lot harder to go there. So that's one kind of major limiting factor for something like Pulsechain that starts off at roughly $1 billion valuation. So you have to kind of think about what does success look like for a coin that's already at a $200 billion valuation like Ethereum, right? Success for Ethereum, and I think here's where we agree, is maybe a 5x over 3 years. Like that's actually a really amazing result, and I think we'd all be very happy with that. Now, what does success look like for something like Pulsechain? That's trading at a it's worth maybe 1/200th of that, right? Well, I think if we can catch up to Ethereum while Ethereum grows, that's obviously what we all want. But that's probably one of the severely limiting factors for us, right? So that's why we're not going to do a 10,000x. But we could do 100x in a really good if things go really well, right? And that would have us be kind of similar to what Ethereum is in size 2-3 years from now, right? That would be a very nice scenario. But we're never going to do a 10,000x when effectively we're a vampire attack of Ethereum. It's going to be basically next to impossible to get there, because that would mean that we'd have $1 trillion valuation for Pulsechain. That the odds of that are very, very, very small. So it's possible, but it's small, very small.
So here's my rebuttal to your scenario based off of what we actually agree on. You are saying just because we start off a $1 billion market cap, that's just too high. And that's where I would disagree. We could also say that because we've already started with an actual community and did not build that community in X's, which is what you say with how Hex did and how Ethereum did and how Bitcoin did, I'll accept that as an answer because there's already a community, there's already a high market cap. Well, wouldn't you say that would just eliminate a first cycle?
Yeah, I mean, in a way, we've already skipped the first cycle with Pulse.
Okay. Yeah, so we agree. We agree on that. We agree on that.
Yep.
So that second cycle, in my opinion, the gains aren't going to be as crazy, but we have to look at it as what does it go up from there. So a $1 billion market cap for a layer one is a joke. We can both agree to that, right?
Sure. Yeah, and
Okay.
so let's look at the comparables there. So BSC is what, 50 billion. You got
We're
your
talking about
Matic.
right now, or top of the market.
I'm talking about right now, but yeah,
Okay.
good point. Yeah, like it was probably four times that, right? When things were good. Like I think Pulsechain to compete with BSC is realistically like a very good upside scenario for us, right? Like I don't think we're gonna kill Ethereum, to be honest. But if we can have as much market share as BSC, that would be looked at as a massive triumph, I think, by everybody in the market. All the Richard skeptics would have to look at that and go, "Wow, that's actually pretty impressive."
See, I was going somewhere different with this book.
Sure. Go somewhere. Go somewhere different.
So what I was saying is that previous community went to a $60 billion market cap in its first cycle. When Hex did its 10,000x, what was the market cap of Hex when it did that?
Depends on how you calculate it. But yeah, it was billions of dollars. That's for sure.
Let's just average at a $50 billion market cap. So all that supply has been taken out and given to Hex or given the Pulsechain investors, pretty much, as you could say, and other coins was able to do that. They took that, and 90% of that goes to a certain organization that does not sell. So, on average, and I have gone over the history of this since 2019, there are a select few coins that has done over a 3.5x over their previous all-time high. Very select. I can look at it and say it was BNB, Cardano, very few coins. Very few coins. Dogecoin is one of them also. That past their second cycle did more than a 3.5x over their all-time high. Most coins die and do not get back to their all-time high. That's just a fact in crypto. The ones that are here to stay does a 3.5x on average on their second cycle to their all-time high. So Hex went to a $50 billion market cap. That was taken out of circulation and put into Pulsechain. A lot of that Hex was put into Pulsechain. And then that 90% of that Pulsechain will likely, based off of history, not sell. So if we were in our second cycle, you're talking a 3.5x over the $50 billion market cap. Is very, very, very likely based off of history in crypto. I just shorthanded it and say it won't happen and said 100x is my minimum. There's more tokenomics to that. We also have a burning mechanism. So we are burning more than we are inflating. So therefore we are decreasing circulating supply to be able to get to that faster. What we've seen in the last 3 months is actually pretty good, but what we haven't seen is what nobody is actually talking about. For example, Pepe. We are actually getting to the Ethereum side of Pepe, and people are actually selling their coins. So we're seeing people with 55 ETH sales, 35 ETH sales, like lots of money, billions of dollars or hundreds of millions of dollars going out of the system. That's why you're seeing more money leave the system than the money that's coming in. It's mainly because people are doing their job and getting people from Ethereum to dump their money. But what does that do? There is so many coins that are needed to be dumped for value. When you look at the top coin on DeFi Llama, LDO, there's $14 billion locked up in LDO. That's the number one coin in TVL. And you go down the list of hundreds of millions and billions of dollars that needs to be, granted their free money. And that, what is that going to do? That is going to burn the shit out of Pulsex and Pulsechain over time, which will allow us to get to those numbers that I'm talking about. So we might not see it now. It might look really bad, like we're not going anywhere, but it's like a slingshot. And what's going to happen is burning from all those people just taking their money. I would say probably 80% of the people right now are the know-it-alls. They know everything. So they're going to sit there and take their money and bring it over to ETH. The know-it-alls are going to lose out, but they're helping us achieve our goals to be able to get to those numbers. What you're not seeing is you're seeing a circulating supply of 135 billion, but you're not seeing the game theory of people selling their coins to go back out to ETH twice. not one time, but twice of amount that will be burning Pulsechain and Pulsex, which allows the circulating supply to go down. It won't go down very fast, but over time, within the next 3 years, it will be a massive slingshot. You could see a chart similar to Polygon that literally just stays flat for a long time while burning is happening, and then you'll see a slingshot that just goes crazy. In my opinion, that's how this plays out.
Nice. I mean, what do you think Matic and BSC and these other things do in the next cycle? Just out of curiosity, on average.
No more than a 2.5 to 3.5x past their all-time high. Why? I don't know. I just go off of history. You can go off of history and look for, and you can go on coin. The best way to do it is go on Coin Market Cap, and then just look at the history of all the coins. It gives you by week, and that's what they do. A 3.5x over the all-time high.
Right.
So what that shows me is whether it's the big boys doing it, whether that's the adoption curve of crypto, I don't know what it is, but that's what happens. And it goes cycles after cycles after cycles. Those numbers line up, and that you can back test yourself and prove that what I'm saying is correct. So if we are in our first cycle and we saw Hex go to a $50 billion market cap, that's why you see my top, when I call it a top, and people ask me, what do you think the top of Hex will be? I say $1.82. Because all I did was take the high and I multiplied it by 3.5x.
Right. Well,
so if you think Pulsechain is going to sit at, if you think Pulsechain is going to sit at a $10 billion market cap, while X goes to a $180 billion market cap, you're crazy, bro.
So, I mean, I think the key thing here is you're looking at the past returns to give you some sort of indicator of what the future does. And that has issues with it, right? So in reality, all the coins that you're talking about are actually in the same cycle, right? There isn't one that's in a first cycle and one that's in a third cycle. They're all participating in the same cycle, but they have different rates of growth. Is the reality, right? The ones that are more mature, it's harder for them to continue to expand in value as much as they did in previous cycles, because they're already very valuable. And that describes, Bitcoin. It describes Ethereum. It describes XRP. It describes Matic. It describes all these things, right? They're all actually participating in the same cycle, right? Now, to the extent that you're thinking about, usually they don't do that much more than their prior highs. I mean, that can be true, but that's not why that's happening, right?
There's a select few, though. When I say a select few, that's a select few that were able to get people to extend their community. Dogecoin's one of them. So that's why you're not seeing that. Elon Musk picked up Dogecoin, and therefore Dogecoin just went to even crazier levels in its prior cycles. That makes sense. Bitcoin, same way. But when you talk about all these other coins, your Matics, your AVAXs, they're not doing what they need to do to get by. They're just doing what they need to get by. Main reason is because, the private investors don't really need to. They're already up. They just need the regular, Bitcoin pump, and then get 3.5x plus their ICO price from already low. So they have no incentive to do that. I think Hex and Pulsechain and the Richard Heart community is completely different from them, and that's why I separate that. Yeah, but I'm not even really separating them. I'm putting them on the same level.
We're not different though. We're not different though. Like, we're definitely part of the same thing, which is, we're risk assets in crypto, right? And Pulse is an EVM, chain, right? So I think you want to compare everything as a benchmark to Ethereum, in my opinion, for that reason, because Ethereum is sort of the kind of common numeraire for everything, and it's easy to invest in. And if Ethereum is doing a 3x, then you really want to be compensated with 10 times that for the risk of Pulsechain, for the risk of.
Well, you're looking at risk from a outsider's perspective, though, and I 100% agree that you should do that when you're evaluating your funds and your money, no matter at what level you are at. Obviously, if you're at a higher level, you're going to value that way more, because you don't want to, throw away all your money trying to go all in on one asset. But that's just not crypto. That's just not
Oh,
people in crypto. They're completely different ball game than you.
well, they may disagree with, or they may not think my method works, but it does. It works for all assets,
It
and
does work. No, I'm not saying it
yeah,
doesn't work. I'm just saying the typical person and even person with money, a lot of
yeah,
crypto is new. A lot of crypto is new money.
absolutely.
New money. So they don't think the way you're thinking because the way you're thinking is old money.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the way I'm thinking is, based off of math and hundreds of years of investment theory. So it's
So, what you're doing is you're bringing in traditional markets to
yeah,
a non-traditional space, and that's what I'm trying to tell you. Based off of
yeah.
history, which is what you're saying. You're saying you're going off of history. I'm going off of history, also the history of the space that we are in. And I'm telling you, you can look it
Mhm.
up for yourself. The numbers that I'm presenting to you is literally a cheat code of non-cheat code. It's the biggest alpha you can be given in all of crypto. I just gave it out to
Well,
everybody.
what your thing is more of like a rule of thumb, right? Than anything, right? It's an heuristic that kind of gives people a rough estimate, right? But it's not
But
actually the thing.
the rough estimate actually hits it to the T
I mean,
every single cycle. Like, how do you explain that?
yeah. I mean,
Is it luck? All right, if it's luck, one is luck. I get you. One is luck.
no,
Two
no,
is like,
no.
all right, bro, you're getting it. Three is a trend.
But it's not it's not the causation. It's it might be a good heuristic, right? But it's not the reason why it happens. It's not because of this thing that you say matters, right?
So go ahead, finish.
Yeah. So I mean, like the reason most things don't ever take out their tops, again, is because they show up, they have their initial pump, they take their shot at the king and they miss, and then they go off into obscurity. Most
Yep,
things, right?
yep.
That's the average crypto, new crypto asset, right? And so and then you say, but a couple things magically get to the top, or they go do amazing things, right? That's called survivorship bias, right? So there's a couple things that every cycle will be proved to be the exception, right, to the rule, right? But in general, most things you'll see in crypto and elsewhere, they get hyped up, they take their shot, they miss, and then they fade into obscurity, right?
Mm-hmm.
You see this every day in meme coins, as a matter of fact, actually, which I think is a good place for us to go to as well. Eventually. So that's why you see that sort of pattern again and again. It's not because it's a 3 times their prior thing like that. Like that's sort of just like a rough estimate. That's an eyeball type
So
thing.
I won't give all my secrets away because I have
Sure.
some secrets that would make people's jaw drop. I'm not going to give it away. But number one, why do you think there is a 4-year cycle, and why does the market go up and go down based off the 4-year cycle?
I don't think there's a 4-year cycle. I think that's I think that. I think that's a bit of a silly narrative.
Excuse me? Like, bro,
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
all right, if you're on the traditional market, investing in, let's just say, Apple from the beginning, and
yeah.
you
So
got in year 2 or year 3, and you saw a cycle on the chart, you're telling me you wouldn't play that chart?
typical market cycles are actually generally more like 8 years long. That's sort of
I know
a
it doesn't
yeah,
matter. I'm just saying,
yeah.
I don't care
The
what it
four
is.
year
If you
the
saw a
4 year
trend,
thing is
if you saw
yeah,
a trend, this is where I'm getting to. If you saw a trend where the numbers are doing the exact same thing on the exact same time, you're telling me you would be that person and be like, nah, I don't believe in the trend. It's going to be different this time. You're that person?
yeah, absolutely. I think the 4 year cycle narrative, is driven by this Bitcoin happening thing. I think it's just a narrative. I don't really think it matters because it's something that the market knows about and anticipates, right? So anytime there's something that's really well understood and it's really well forecasted, it shouldn't really impact the market too much, right? Because the market should have already priced it in, years ago. And the Bitcoin halving is exactly that kind of event,
You know
right?
why?
We
You
know,
know why it's priced in? Because everything's off of cycles. I'm literally telling you, like I've been my whole argument from the beginning
yeah,
literally off of a cycle. And 4 years is a fact. It goes up for 2 years, it goes down for, or it goes up for 1 year, it goes pretty much down for 3 years. And then you've got about 5 to 8 months of crazy parabolic action. But if you got in at the low in the first 2 years, you actually really killed it. And the cycle literally is to the T. That's why I'm able to say in 2019, in 2 years, I'm pretty sure Bitcoin is going to be at a $1.2 trillion market cap on this day around this time. The reason why you said 3 years is because you actually believe in the freaking Bitcoin cycles. You yourself said the top is going to be, by 3 years, 2 years. You were doing that based off the Bitcoin cycle.
No. We finally found something we actually really disagree on. So that's good. I do not think it has anything to do with the 4-year cycle. When I say that, I think crypto is going to, probably be up in 2-3 years. I actually think it's the broader global macro cycle that is going to do that, and it's also, to an extent, broader adoption and technological improvements in crypto as well. That's good. That will add a little bit as well. But if you look at it, the 4-year cycle was sort of anecdotal. The first 10 years that Bitcoin existed was in this quantitative easing period that kind of started in 2010 and didn't end until we started tightening in 2022. A year ago. In Q1 2022.
So you're saying, so for people who don't understand, you got to kind of dumb it down.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I'll dumb it down.
So you're basically saying the traditional market is the reason why Bitcoin does a 4-year cycle.
Yeah, there's an old white guy named Jay Powell, and he's going to cut interest rates next year, and if he does that, and the market's expecting that to some degree, but if he does that in a meaningful way, more than we already expect, then you're going to see risk assets fly. So that means house prices, that means crypto.
Do you think that everything is led, when it comes to cycles, everything is led by the traditional market? And are you basically saying the cycle within the traditional market is being broken?
So I do think everything is connected. So when you're in your early stages of growth with something that's very new and small, you can sort of buck the trend of markets, right? You can kind of run your own race, right? So you see this with, I don't know, Pepe as an example, right? It's a new meme coin. It's a very small market cap initially. Some big guys come in and start pumping it, right? But so you can do that temporarily, right, and have explosive growth. But once you get to a certain size, you're sort of captured by the gravity of the global economy, right? And you don't really go up too much faster than the global economy. And ultimately, you start to slow down, right? So you experience this, and this is actually a good thing to think about for what you're talking about, because you're always looking backwards and going, well, if it did this in the past. But you had economies like Japan in the 80s that went on just an absolute explosive growth tear that was largely led by a demographic boom that they experienced after World War II and a reconstruction following World War II. That kind of led to Japan having this tremendous growth phase, where when I was a kid, and you're probably just about old enough as well, and they used to scare the shit out of us in kindergarten because they tell us that the Japanese were going to have a bigger economy than America, pretty soon, right? And it never happened, basically, because by 1991, the bubble that it was in popped, and as I said earlier, they took a shot and they missed. And then, they basically went on a 30-year bear market where they're still below their 1991 equity prices, right? And they grow, very slowly, but in line with the rest of the global economy. And I think you're experiencing something like that in China right now as well, right? China had a 40-year.
I don't think it matters. That's where
it does.
That's where it
does.
Because within the cycle, news events happen, and I'm in the boat of show me the chart. Yeah. I'll tell you the news. You're trying to find a reason for the chart doing what it's doing. I'm basically
no.
saying I don't need that chart to see what's going on.
Well, let's agree on one thing about charts and news, right? So there is absolutely the possibility to have very short-term aberrations where
Yeah.
you get insane valuations, right? So I think we can both agree that that is possible. But what you care about is, where is ultimately the destination? Because the odds that you're going to be able to necessarily pick the top perfectly, are not always so great, right? And you may not have the liquidity you need, or you may not have the timing. So it does matter when you think about the actual, where is a sustainable level for this asset, right? Many people were not able to sell all their hex at 50 cents.
Correct.
Right?
It's not about taking
Yeah.
profit. You're gonna have a game plan for that too. Like that's
Yeah.
we
You know,
100% agree on that.
we agree on that. So
Yeah.
so Japan, for example, there was a period in the 80s where the emperor's land in Tokyo, where the palace is, was worth more than the state of California. Like that was how ridiculous the valuations had gotten in Tokyo in the late 80s, right? So you can get really extreme, price fluctuations, but they're temporary, right? The market has a way of ultimately seeing through that and figuring that out and crushing things that are extreme like that over time. So that's kind of one thing that I think you want to definitely keep your head on a swivel.
Yes.
Anytime.
You're actually proving my point though. Like you are proving my point by saying when things get up there and get crazy, like people's mindsets go crazy, and
Sure.
that allows the
Yep.
price to go at parabolic
Yep.
prices, just like crypto does. Well, when
Temporarily.
you say temporarily, bro, you had like months to sell hex from
Yep.
30 cents to 50 cents. Like you couldn't sell at 50 cents, but it's fucking sitting at a penny right now. Like you had
And you had
months to
year.
sell every day. You had 90 days basically to
Yep.
sell anywhere from 30 to 50 cents. You had plenty of
Correct. Yeah.
liquidity in that time.
Correct. Yeah. Most of us did.
Yeah.
Not everybody.
Well, if you
But
have, you're not going to be able to sell 10 billion hex all at once, but
yeah.
you're going to be able to take out millions and millions of dollars within 90 days. If you ready for this, here's the key. If that's in your mindset. So that's where
Yeah.
people become holders and don't sell. And that's where people get wrecked. And that is the new money in crypto.
Yeah. So I think, and I definitely want to talk about meme coins with you at some point because I think there's a lot we can
Yeah.
unpack there. But I think the key thing to understand though is that valuation is what is ultimately going to play through in the long run. So I completely suggest that it's very possible for us to find a long run valuation for Pulse where we do a 10x, right? Could there be a period where we do a 100x briefly? I think that's possible, right? But it's probably not sustainable. You know what I mean? So if we did that,
Would you value Pulsechain better than Solana?
like currently, you mean would I say it's worth more? Is what you
No,
mean?
like you're talking about valuations. Like it's just a simple question. Like, do you think Pulsechain is more valuable than Solana?
Probably not right now, but it could be in the future, right? I
Okay,
mean,
so
Solana.
say Pulsechain has everything. The Pulsex is all set. We're coming to the bull market. Do you feel that Pulsechain should outbeat Solana?
Well, so here's actually what excites me about Pulsechain is that I think a lot of people have discounted it a lot, right? That's
Mm-hmm.
what's actually compelling about it.
And
To
they're
me.
all going. They're
Is
all.
not
I see a lot of them still in Solana and talking about Solana, this and that.
correct. And so what I really like about the opportunity set in front of us is actually all the despair and FUD because I think they do fail to see what we can see in terms of the upside potential, right? They can't see it right now. You know what I mean? It's so I don't think I don't think they realize how much we can go up, and I think they're going to their minds are going to be blown when Ethereum does a 3x and we do a 30x, right? I think their minds are going to be blown by that, right? And their little shitty Solana thing maybe does like a 5x, right?
Like, why would you be blown by that though? Solana, that would give Solana a $40 billion market cap, and that would give Pulsechain,
something similar.
like, so you
Yeah.
think it's going to be on the same page? So you think it's just as equal as Solana?
So like I
That's
think,
basically what you're
uh,
saying.
yeah, no, I said it earlier too. I think if we could kind of compete with BSC in terms of market share, I think that would be a tremendous success story for the cycle. That would be like a 50x, right? Or more, right?
Well, that's
Like,
BNB. BSC, BNB would have to stay at where it's at right now. That's funny. That's what I'm saying. Like
yeah.
your numbers are off because like BNB is at a
Well,
$37 billion market cap. It would have to just like stay still and do nothing during this whole thing, and then Pulsechain would be going up, and then we'd be like, "Yay, we're as good as BSC," but BSC did nothing. Like that's what I mean. Like your
I
timing and
think
how
I think
markets work is
BSC
off.
I think BSC is
Completely off.
probably going to do like it. I think BSC is probably going to do something similar to Ethereum. I don't think it's going to go up very much either, right? So
Yeah,
just
but
to be clear,
no, listen, bro. BNB right now is a $37 billion market cap right now. It's
yeah.
37 times more expensive than Pulsechain. And if you think it's going to do a 5x and we're going to do as much as BNZ, well, that's 150x. So that's minimum of 150x from sacrifice price. So you're agreeing with me.
Well, no, I'm saying I'm
Oh,
saying that would be a very rosy scenario. Like that would be to me a very very good outcome, right? I'm not saying that's what's going to happen. What I think is going to
I
happen.
think one thing also that you're also not really putting in consideration is the PRC20s, and I'm glad you brought up BSC because we all know BSC is the altcoin casino king. It's the
Correct.
Caesar's Palace, the Bellagio of crypto when it comes to altcoins. And we also know that they're not going to give Pulsechain a name for it. If they do, they're going to lose that battle in lawsuits. So they ain't going to give Pulsechain no type of credit because they're either going to have to tell you that Pulsechain exists, and when they do that, all their people's going to be like, "Where are my coins?" And that's only going to help us out when it comes to marketing. Or they don't say a thing, and Pulsechain goes up, and people wonder, "Where are my coins?" And that comes issues. So I think BSC, I think Pulsechain is bad news for BSC no matter what happens and what goes on.
Mm,
But here's the key with that also. A lot of these PRC20s won't even get touched and don't.
yep.
So it's possible that my scenario, the burning situation doesn't happen and they don't get touched. Well, that's a big positive for coins that are in Pulsechain. And that's
Mm,
also a big positive for Pulsechain going up in value as fast because you won't see everyone dumping as much as they are. But either way, the talks of Pulsechain is going to come whether you like it or not, and that's why I think more than a 10x is very possible. But if you think we're going
there.
to be around BSC, man,
I would like
that's
that
it.
to be.
That's my
I
minimum.
would like
That's
that.
my
I would
minimum.
like that. I would like that to happen. I don't know if that's what's going to happen, right? But I think for us to compete with Matic is more realistic, right? I actually think BSC probably moves sideways relative to Ethereum. I don't think it grows its market share this cycle. You probably agree
So
with me on that, I bet.
I could make that statement that yes, Binance, their top was 110 billion.
Yeah.
So I would say 2-3x, from there.
Do you
It
think they
might
grow?
go sideways. It might go sideways just because in like the lawsuits that they're going with. So you might see
Yeah.
BNB do kind of what XRP did, last year. Didn't
Yep.
really do anything. If we do with Solana, I do think Solana goes and does a just like typical crypto, just typical markets, typical cycles. It did a $77 billion market cap at its high. So your 7 times your 3.5, which is your typical cycle, is $270 billion. So if we're sitting close to Solana, once again, that's a 270x from where we're at right now.
Sorry, Solana's worth how much?
At the top of the market, Solana was a $77 billion market cap. If you go off
Okay.
the history of all crypto since the
Yeah.
beginning of time in altcoins, on average, they do. Now, when I say on average, it's not like one's 1.2, one's no 3.5 to the T, anywhere from 3 to 3.5 from the T from the high of the previous cycle for a secondary EVM coin. You're talking $77 billion. Multiply that by 3.5, you got $270 billion market cap.
Yeah. So I just want to make sure we're on the same page here. So I think that BSC probably loses market share this cycle. It sounds like you do too.
It
kind of
can. It
yeah.
can, and if it does,
So it still
I would
goes up,
say
but
either
it loses
Solana
market
or I
share.
would say either Solana or Binance, but based off of history, based off of cycles, based off of everything that's been happening for the last 11 years, 12 years that Bitcoin's been out, that 3.5x is data. And I'm a statistician by like my old job was statistics basically. And when I see something that has a trend, I will go with it every single time. Just like the 4-year cycle, I will go with it until the trend is your friend until the end. So until it stops doing it, then I will stop playing it. But the trend has not stopped. And if the Solana still has a community, Solana, after all the crap it's been through, and it's still going and going well, markets, no matter what you hear, no matter what news you hear. When I look at the chart, I don't give a damn about the news. I don't give a damn about who dumped it, who owned it, what happened during the bear market. It is literally following the trend. So I am believing that the trend will continue. When you price it with Solana, Solana topped out at a $77 billion market cap.
Sure.
I will 3.5x
I'll bet
from
you.
there based off of the trends of crypto from the beginning of time. And that gives me a $270 billion market cap for Solana at the top of the next bull market. So if we're riding alongside of Solana, which I think we are better than Solana, but if we are going to ride with Solana, that is a 275, 280x from where we're at right now, which is way higher than your 10x to 50x to 100x that you gave when you yourself said that you believe we will ride alongside of Solana.
So I would probably, if we could, I would probably make a bet with you that Solana never breaks its prior all-time high. I'd probably take that bet. So I don't think it's going to do a 3.5x.
The only reason I will not take that bet because there are coins that don't do that based off of history.
Correct. Yeah. So we talked earlier
because
about
they are a
Sacrafice.
first cycle coin. So what I'm saying is I do think Solana is holding its place in the top 10. Now we saw Solana go from top 10 all the way down to like 40, 50.
Sure.
That's the typical cycle coin, and you just never see them again. But here's the key based off of my history, and you can watch my YouTube.
That's why I don't like your 3.5.
The fact that it came back to top 10 and is holding it means what happened prior to was a false event, and it wasn't doing what the typical crypto does, where it gets in the top 10 and die, like Litecoin did, like Binance, like Bitcoin Cash did, like any other coin that been in the top 10 and creeped itself out of the top 10. It decided EOS was out in the top 10 before, like going laws of meme coins. I explained all of this. So watch that video if people have it. But when it made its way back into the top 10, it did something that many coins did not do. The only coins that has ever done that, and I'm explaining to you right here, Cardano and Dogecoin. Dogecoin left the top 10. Elon picked it up, boom, went right back in the top 10. Therefore, it's going to do something different that everyone else didn't do. Cardano left the top 10. Everyone thought it was dead. Everyone thought it was a fluke. Hawkinson came back out. Here's your smart contracts, which we won't even go there, but here is your smart contracts. Boom, it's back in the top 10. It's holding it. So it's doing something different that others have not done. Believe it or not, here's a very, very big sleeper that no one's even looking at. And I'm not promoting these coins, people, but it is doing something different as it's creeping its way back into the top 10. Tron and Litecoin, somehow, some way. I do believe the only reason Tron is doing it because I think CZ is in cahoots with Justin. So I do think that is the only reason why that's kind of creeping as all that money moves over to Tron. And I do think something shady is going on there. Either way, I don't give a damn about what's going on, what's the news. I'm looking and seeing that there are a select few coins, less than 10, that will make their way back into the top 10 after a bear market because the majority of coins die and go down. So I do think Solana does go back to this all-time high, but based on the statistics, is something can happen to where, Solana just goes down. Like I think they got labeled as one of the coins, the security coins or something like that, where it will bring it back down. But what I would say though is Pulsechain takes Solana's spot and does that 3.5x over the all-time high. And that's why I compared it with Hex, because Hex went to like $50-60 billion market cap at its all-time high. And I said that we took that as our first cycle, and that 3.5x basically replaces Solana. And there you go.
Yeah, cool. So Solana is an interesting one because for it to get to that valuation, if I remember the narrative, I remember it was guys like Dan Emmons who were trying to get me to buy it right at the top, and saying, this thing's basically an Ethereum killer, right? So this is a perfect example of what I said earlier about a lot of these things come along. They take they're billed as, they're going to take a shot at the king, and they miss, and they go into obscurity. And I'll bet most of these things, now Solana might be different, might be the exception, but probably not. Most of these things, they never when they had that level of success, they never get there again.
I
so
agree
I'm still
with you,
waiting.
but that money has to go somewhere. So that's market cap. That's money that's valued.
It can go somewhere else, though. So what I'm saying. So just for everybody. So I think you and I agree on this point. But let me just finish my thought here for the people listening. An example of this is XRP. XRP was supposed to kill Bitcoin in 2017, right? It went to $3 briefly in Christmas 2017, and it still hasn't come close to taking that out again, right? I think Solana is most likely going to suffer the same fate. They may get their act together, but most likely not. I think ICP is going to suffer that same fate. ICP, for those of you guys that don't know what it is, it's but it basically debuted at like number 4 on CoinMarketCap at the peak of the bull market, and then died. It was super hyped by VC guys, all these people. So I actually think things like that are pretty unlikely to take out their 2020 highs. Most of them are going to fade into obscurity over time. They'll still go up, but everything will go up.
So I 100% agree with you. People close to me, my following knows exactly how I feel. So you're basically kind of repeating, with the things that I said. And I'm gonna give you 2 more reasons why I do believe we will see a higher valuation than what you're thinking. Like I said, we do agree on a lot of things. It's just how we come up with our final output. But,
which grown-ups can do, by the way. We're allowed to disagree and not get mad at each other.
So the second part of it is that usually within crypto, basically I'm going off of history again, layer ones come out during the bear market or coming out to the bear market. A lot of times, a lot of fresh coins come out during the Bitcoin halving time. Why? I just think that's when VCs, want that, that Richard Hart hockey stick type chart that we all talk about. So if low layer ones have been coming out. I know of one, and it's sitting at low. It's sitting at nothing, but you can still get that hockey stick, chart. Any VC can pump a coin up. So we'll see lots of coins, probably competitors, come out starting January of next year. What happens in your situation is Solana has to be replaced. AVAX will be replaced by something out as the new fresh money comes in and goes into the new fresh hot coin, kind of like a meme coin. It's the same exact rotation, same exact thing. Nothing's come out outside of Pulsechain.
Yeah, I mean, there's
that value is going somewhere as it disappears from Solana or BNB.
There's ZK is a thing everybody's talking about. I mean, there's different things that are doing well, right? Arbitrum. I don't know. Like,
not really. I don't think Arbitrum's look at their circulating supply to their total supply. Like, it's nothing but inflation, hardcore inflation. Like, that's not that. That's all VC money dumping on people. That's basically ICP.
Yeah, all over again. Yeah, I would agree. I would agree with you. I would agree with you there. But I mean, all I'm saying is there are things coming out that
what that is. That's fake market cap. As the VCs get their coins, market cap goes up, but the price stays the same, and make it look like, it's going big, but the VCs are the only one that wins as they keep getting more coins, making the price stay where it's at, but the market cap going up as more coins go in circulation. That's basically
So I think basically we get to different numbers, which is okay. We're allowed to do that. It sounds like your essential scenario is just way rosier than mine, right? But
Based off
we
history,
probably
based off of history, you gotta make sure you throw that in there, though.
that's why I don't like the based off of history thing because I think you're looking at a biased sample because you're ignoring all the losers. Like where you need to look at you mentioned EOS. What was the other one? IOTA.
I know
All that stuff from 2017 that we forgot
Yep.
about. You know what I mean?
So here's the next thing, though, man. And this is the one thing that you can't discount. It's the last one, and it's actually probably the most important one. And I don't praise the guy ever, really, because I'm not really like that. That's not part of my. That's not just me. So that's the one thing I don't like about the maxi Hexicans. They praise the man more than just making money. But there is a man, his name is Richard Hart, and the guy is on a mission. And I don't know if he knows the people that own the 90% of the supply, but there's a lot of money just chilling and not moving that could make things happen. And that is pure speculation. But the man's out for glory. And I think his goal, and I said this before on the stream and everyone went crazy, I think his goal is to make a good amount of people a bunch of millionaires. I really believe that is his goal. And I do believe that will help him get more glory, more people cheering his name, more people happy about him, more people this, and this, doing what I hate the most. Is when I hear him just praising the guy, and I'm just like, oh my goodness. But I see why. I understand why. And the majority of people that have sacrificed for Pulsechain was in the $100 and $1,000 range. So he's already made a bunch of people money through Hex. A lot of those people are the top wallet holders. And I do believe that they believe they're going to see round 2 with Pulsechain, which would make them even more money. But the crazy number is making those thousandaires, like he did with Hex, into millionaires. And that is a very fully speculative thing. But I know people like Richard Hart, and you're kind of talking to him. And if it was me, I would 100% that would be my goal. So they would come and, worship more, talk about you're the man, this and that. There's the ego in there, and he wants that. And I believe he has the ability to make that happen. And I think that is the one scenario that a lot of people don't see, whether you hate him or whether you love him. I think he has a way to making that happen. And there's probably a game theory that we aren't even thinking of, or maybe I hit the game theory on the nail. But I think there's something to his marketing style and something that we all don't know that's coming, because there's like $670 million just sitting there. What gets used to that, we don't know, if anything. But he has a goal, and I think a man like him with his mindset, it's really that sports mindset, that sports that I'm going to be number one. And that's kind of like the mindset I have. So I know what he's thinking. I know how he's thinking. I've been around those type of people, and they will not stop till they get that.
Yeah, nice. So I think we've kind of hit the we've unpacked the kind of valuation thing pretty well. So I think to summarize, your central scenario is rosier than mine, but we both agree that the market's probably underestimating Pulsechain currently, and I would agree with what you said in general there about Richard and whatnot. I would say I don't think he cares about making these guys millionaires, though. I think he cares about winning. So
I agree, but part of that is making people millionaires. Like, that's just the name of the game.
Hold on. Let me finish what I was going to say there. I think the average sacrificer is going to lose money on Pulsechain. I get that feeling.
Here's the thing: the average sacrificer,
yeah,
could, because they'll either sell too early. That's just typical markets. But when you look at the numbers of could have, should have, you see him how he does his marketing with Bitcoin holders. Your Bitcoin could have been this if you just held. It's going to be that same scenario with Pulsechain. Exactly. If you just held, those thousandaires could have been millionaires if you just held.
Exactly. So I think that's also part of the game as well to understand.
Absolutely.
So a lot of these guys are actually just going to be their food for the rest of us, in a sense. They're gonna sell, or if they haven't already sold, for a loss before things get good, and we'll go up. So not everybody is going to succeed, right? And I think that's a very important thing to understand about Richard's game. So yeah, so I guess we can sort of kind of segue into that now a little bit. But yeah, I think that's a key thing. A lot of people think that Hex was just an up only thing, right? From day one, the whole Hex launch was such a complete shit show, with the entire crypto community basically writing papers about the OA wallet, and it being an affinity scam. That was like this massive kind of negative event for Hex in the very beginning. And it's what allowed it to drop 97%, which is ultimately what allowed us to go up a ton. We had to get all these people to basically dump it and give up on it. And it happened relatively quickly, right? And I think we're seeing echoes of that right now with Pulsechain and Pulsex particularly. But we don't ever talk about all the guys that sold the first 30 days, right? We talk about the returns from the bottom, right? So I think a lot of people are going to actually lose money on Pulsex, and they're never going to see any kind of returns off of it. And there's another subset of people that are selling right now and making a fortune doing it because they got a huge multiplier, right? So good for them, I would say. But yeah, ultimately we're going to go up, I think, because of a combination of things. One of those is what you just brought up there with Richard. But I think two is, ultimately we have a very good community. That's the thing that really gives me comfort. And while we don't have any of the kudos that, from the tech people, because we're not really doing anything useful or interesting from a technology standpoint, people forget that what really matters is building the communities around these ecosystems. Apple wasn't super good, back 20 years ago, right? In fact, it was inferior to Pentium chips and things like that. But it built a very strong community. And then it just basically took all the best technology from everybody, and it ended up winning, right? So I think we could do something similar, and we're going to have the best returns. I think I really do believe that in this upcoming bull market, whenever it happens, we're gonna outperform every single thing that we've talked about today. So all those coins, I think we're going to outperform Solana. I think we're going to outperform BSC. I think we're going to outperform Ethereum. Confident we're going to outperform Bitcoin. I don't think we've mentioned a name today that will outperform us in the next cycle. There are things out there that will, but you and I haven't mentioned one that I think is going to actually realistically outperform Pulsechain.
Pepe.
Pepe? I think Pepe's had his
I'm a
moment.
Pepe man. You gotta go with it.
You want
But from here, if you were to go in from here, no, I don't think it'll be Pepe. If you got in the beginning, yes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But if you're talking about Pepe now, that just means you're a bag holder.
Unless you're Pepe on Pulsechain.
Yeah.
You don't know the game that's happening, bro. Like, you gotta understand the meme coin game. It's a different beast. It is a different beast.
You didn't say Pepe on Pulsechain. You said Pepe. So
Pepe. I was just saying in general. Like there will be meme coins that will outperform Pulsechain. Yeah, 1,000%. There will be one every week that will outperform Pulsechain if you get in the beginning. That's simple. You have to get in the beginning.